The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council stretched for nearly a kilometer in every direction. Thousands of representatives from across known space gathered under the dome of transparent aluminum that showed the stars beyond. Here, the fate of civilizations was decided, trade agreements were signed, and wars were prevented before they could begin. Here, the united species of the galaxy came together to speak as one voice, and here, for the 51st time in 50 years, humanity's seat sat empty. Ambassador Cathara of the Vrix Empire stood at the central podium, her forearms gesturing with increasing frustration at the vacant chair that bore Earth's designation. Her scales shimmered with the red hue that her species displayed when angry. Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species watched with varying degrees of interest and amusement. 51 summits, Cathara announced, her voice amplified across the vast space. 51 times, we have extended the hand of fellowship to the humans. 51 times they have ignored us. They refuse to sign the Collective Defense Treaty. They decline membership in the Trade Federation. They send no ambassadors, no representatives, nothing but automated messages of polite refusal. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. The Quellan representative, his crystalline body chiming softly, raised a manipulator appendage. Perhaps they simply wish to remain neutral? Many species choose isolation. Cathara's laugh was harsh. Isolation? They were given the gift of faster-than-light travel by the Endari First Contact Team. They were shown the wonders of the galaxy. They were offered protection, trade, and friendship. And what do? They return to their single star system and hide like frightened children. The humans did thank us for the technology, the Endari delegate said quietly, her voice barely audible. The Endari were a peaceful species, thin and graceful. And they had been the ones to make first contact with Earth 50 years ago. They were grateful. Grateful? Cathara spat the word. They took your gift and then closed their borders. Our intelligence reports show minimal expansion. A few mining operations in their outer planets, some basic orbital stations. They remain huddled on their homeworld like primitives, afraid of the dark. They have built nothing of significance. This was not entirely true. But Cathara did not know that. Nobody did. Far from the Galactic Council, in the cold darkness between Mars and Jupiter, something massive moved through space. It had no running lights. Its hull absorbed sensor sweeps, rather than reflecting them. To any casual scan, it appeared to be nothing more than another asteroid tumbling through the belt. But inside the object, lights blazed. Thousands of workers moved through corridors that stretched for kilometers. Manufacturing plants operated at full capacity, their fusion cores providing nearly unlimited power. Artificial gravity kept the workers comfortable as they assembled components that would have baffled any galactic engineer. Commander Sarah Okonkwo walked through one of the primary assembly bays, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. Around her, the skeleton of something enormous was taking shape. The vessel dwarfed anything in the known galaxy, its frame alone larger than most species' capital ships. Status report, she said into her communicator. Hull plating is 63% complete, came the response. We're ahead of schedule. The primary weapon systems are installed and tested. The reactor cores are operating at optimal efficiency. She'll be ready for launch in 8 months. Good. Very good. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. What about the others? Construction Site Delta reports similar progress. Site Gamma is 3 months behind schedule but within acceptable parameters. Sites Epsilon through Zeta are all green. Sarah nodded. Sites. They called them sites, not shipyards, because shipyards showed up on sensors. These facilities had been built slowly, carefully, over decades, each one disguised as something harmless. Mining operations, research stations, debris fields. Humanity had learned the art of hiding in plain sight. Her communicator chimed with a priority message. Commander, you're needed in communications. We're receiving the council broadcast. Sarah made her way to the communications center. A room filled with screens, showing data from across the solar system and beyond. On the main display, Ambassador Cathara was still speaking. "The humans cannot be trusted to defend themselves," Cathara declared. "The harvester swarms grow stronger in the outer rim. Pirates raid shipping lanes. Without participation in the collective defense network, humanity is vulnerable. And when they fall, their system could become a staging ground for our enemies." "So what do you propose?" asked the Quellan representative. Cathara's scales shifted to a deeper red. "Protective integration. The Vrix Empire will extend its shield to the Sol system. We will establish defense stations. We will garrison forces on Earth and its colonies. We will protect them, whether they wish it or not." The chamber erupted in debate. Some species supported the measure. Others questioned whether forcing protection on an unwilling civilization was ethical. But eventually, as always, the vote came. The measure passed with a narrow majority. Cathara smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "It is decided then. The Vrix fleet will depart for Earth within the month. We will bring them into civilization, one way or another." In the communications center of Construction Site Alpha, Sarah Okonkwo watched the broadcast end. Around her, the other officers stood in silence. "They're coming," someone said quietly. "Yes," Sarah agreed. "They're coming. Do we tell them? Do we reveal what we've built?" Sarah considered this. For 50 years, humanity had maintained its secret. For 50 years, they had built and planned and prepared, always knowing this day might come. The galaxy thought Earth was weak, backward, insignificant. They had no idea. Not yet, Sarah decided. Let them come. Let them see what they expect to see. And then, if they force our hand, we'll show them the truth. 3 weeks later, War Master Jeln of the Vrix Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Times Crimson Talon **. Behind him, 200 warships moved in perfect formation through faster-than-light space. It was a fleet that had conquered 12 worlds. It had broken rebellions and crushed pirate armadas. It was, Jeln believed, more than sufficient to intimidate one backward human civilization. "We will exit faster than light at the edge of their system," Jeln told his officers. "We will give them time to see us, to understand the futility of resistance. Then, we will proceed to their homeworld and begin establishing our garrison." "What if they resist?" asked his second-in-command. Jeln laughed. "With what? Intelligence reports show they have perhaps 30 orbital defense platforms, basic kinetic weapons, and primitive missiles. We have 200 warships with plasma cannons and quantum shields. If they resist, we will disable their defenses without destroying them. This will be a demonstration, not a war." The fleet dropped out of faster than light at the edge of the Sol system. Immediately, sensors swept across the space ahead, cataloging everything they could detect. "Initial scans complete," the sensor officer reported. "We are detecting the 9 planets as expected. Multiple moons. Significant asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets. Artificial satellites around the 3rd planet, Earth. Counting approximately 40 defense stations in orbit. No fleet presence detected." "No fleet?" Jeln leaned forward. "None at all?" "Negative, War Master. Some civilian vessels in the inner system. Mining craft in the asteroid belt. But no military fleet presence." Jeln settled back in his command chair, disappointed. He had hoped for at least a token show of force. Something to make this interesting. Instead, the humans appeared even weaker than intelligence had suggested. "Open a channel to Earth," he ordered. The communication was established quickly. A human face appeared on the screen. A man with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore no uniform, no insignia of rank. "This is Earth Central Authority," the man said. "You are in violation of sovereign human space. Identify yourself." "I am War Master Jeln of the Vrix Empire," Jeln replied. We come by authority of the Galactic Council to extend our protection to your system. You will stand down your defenses and prepare to receive our garrison forces. The human's expression did not change. We do not recognize the Galactic Council's authority over human space. We did not request your protection. You have 24 hours to withdraw from this system. Geln barked a laugh. You dare to give me an ultimatum? Human, look at your sensors. We have 200 warships. You have orbital platforms with weapons that cannot penetrate our shields. You have no fleet. You have no chance. I am being generous by giving you any time at all. 24 hours, the human repeated. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war. The communication cut off. Geln stared at the blank screen in disbelief, then laughed again. His officers joined in. The audacity of these primitives was almost admirable. Change of plans, Geln announced. We move in 12 hours instead of 24. I want to teach these humans a lesson about respect. Advance the fleet to high orbit above Earth. Weapons charged but held. Let them see us close up and understand their mistake. The Vrix fleet moved forward, confident and powerful. They passed the outer planets without incident. They swept through the asteroid belt, barely glancing at the mining operations and research stations they detected. They approached Earth's moon. Weapons, glowing with barely contained power. Geln had expected panic. Desperate communications. Perhaps even a futile attack. Instead, there was only silence from Earth. This is strange, his second-in-command muttered. They should be responding. They are afraid, Geln decided. Good. Fear will make them compliant. So, the 12-hour deadline passed. Geln prepared to broadcast his final ultimatum, and then, everything changed. At first, it was subtle. A sensor reading that did not quite match. An energy signature that appeared where nothing should be. The sensor officer frowned at his displays, running diagnostics. War Master, I am detecting anomalies. What kind of anomalies? I am not certain. Stealth fields, perhaps? They are collapsing across the system. Multiple locations. Dozens of them. No. Hundreds. On the main display, the view of the Sol system updated as sensors penetrated the failing stealth fields. What they saw made every officer on the bridge freeze. The asteroid belt was not a belt at all. It was a fortress. Hidden among the tumbling rocks were massive weapons platforms, each one capable of threatening a capital ship. What they had dismissed as mining operations were revealed as shipyards. Their stealth fields dropping to show vessels in various stages of construction. Around Mars, invisible until this moment, an entire defense grid powered up. Energy readings spiked across the spectrum. Near Jupiter, what they had logged as a research station unfolded like a flower, revealing itself as a monitoring complex the size of a small moon. And in the darkness beyond Neptune, in the cold reaches where nothing should exist, 2,000 ships appeared. They had been there all along, hiding in the black, waiting. Now, their stealth fields dropped, and their engines lit up like stars being born. 2,000 vessels, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in Geln's fleet. Impossible, Geln whispered. Where did they come from? How did we not detect them? The answer was simple but horrifying. Humanity had built them in secret, in hidden shipyards scattered across their system and beyond. They had built them slowly, carefully, over 50 years, and they had kept them hidden until this precise moment. A communication signal pinged. Geln accepted it with a shaking hand. The same human appeared on the screen. Still calm. Still expressionless. Your 12 hours are up, War Master Geln. We asked you to leave. You refused. Now we will show you why that was a mistake. Wait. Geln began. But the human had already closed the channel. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for generations. The Vrix fleet was not destroyed. That would have been simple, almost merciful. Instead, they were systematically disabled, with a precision that spoke of overwhelming technological superiority. Every weapon system on every Vrix ship stopped functioning simultaneously. Not damaged, not destroyed, simply shut down by cyber warfare attacks that bypassed every firewall and defense. Engines lost power, locked into safe modes by intrusion programs that rewrote their operating systems faster than anyone could respond. Communications were jammed by signals so powerful, they burned out receivers. Not a single human ship fired a shot. The automated defense platforms did all the work, their weapons carefully calibrated to cripple rather than kill. Within 10 minutes, the entire Vrix fleet was floating helpless in space. Their crews unharmed, but their ships utterly defeated. Zeln sat in his command chair, staring at displays filled with error messages and system failures. Around him, his crew worked frantically to restore even basic functions. They were warriors, conquerors, the pride of the Vrix Empire. And they had been swatted aside like insects. A new communication arrived. This time, it was a different human. A woman in a military uniform. "War Master Zeln," she said. "I am Fleet Admiral Chen of the United Earth Space Force. You came to our system uninvited and with hostile intent. We have disabled your fleet, but harmed no one. You will remain in place while we arrange for recovery vessels to tow you to a safe distance. Then you will return to the Galactic Council and deliver a message." "What message?" Zeln asked, his voice hoarse. Admiral Chen's expression was hard as steel. "Tell them we have been listening. Tell them we have been watching every council session, every debate, every vote for 50 years. Tell them we stayed away not out of fear or weakness, but because we were preparing. We learned from our own history that hope for peace is not enough. You must be ready for war." She leaned forward slightly. "Tell them that what you saw today was Earth's home defense system. Tell them this represents perhaps 20% of our total military capability, and tell them that if they ever try to force their will on humanity again, they will see the rest." The communication ended. Zeln sat in silence, his mind struggling to process what had happened. Around him, his officers were equally stunned. They had come to intimidate primitives. Instead, they had discovered that the primitives were anything but. Far away, in the Galactic Council chambers, the broadcast played on every screen. Earth had transmitted the entire engagement in real time, ensuring that every species, every government, every military leader saw exactly what happened to those who threatened humanity. Ambassador Cathara watched in horror as her fleet was disabled. She saw the 2,000 ships that humanity had hidden. She understood, finally, why Earth had ignored every summit. They had not been hiding in fear. They had been building in secret. And now the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was prepared. And that, Cathara realized with growing dread, changed everything. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began 3 days after the Vrix fleet's humiliation. Every seat was filled. Every species that had voting rights sent their highest-ranking representatives. The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation, speculation, and in some cases, outright fear. Ambassador Cathara stood at her assigned position, her scales a dull gray that signified shame among her people. She had been the loudest voice, demanding action against Earth. Now her fleet floated in human space, disabled and helpless, waiting for human recovery vessels to tow them to safety. The War Master had sent his report. Cathara had read it 3 times, each reading making her stomach sink lower. The council chairman, a Vorthian whose species had mediated galactic disputes for 10,000 years, called the session to order. His face was grave. "We have all seen the transmission from Sol system," he began. "We have all read the reports. The question before us now is simple. What do we do about humanity? What can we do?" the Quellan representative asked, his crystalline body flickering with agitated colors. "They disabled 200 Vrix warships without firing a shot. They revealed a fleet of 2,000 vessels that we never detected. They have technology we do not understand. And they did all of this while we thought they were primitive isolationists. They lied to us, Cathara said bitterly. They deceived us. For 50 years. Did they? The Endari delegate stood, her voice quiet but clear. I have reviewed every communication Earth sent us. They never claimed to be weak. They never said they had no military. They simply declined our invitations and asked to be left alone. We were the ones who assumed. We were the ones who interpreted their silence as weakness. But the intelligence reports, another delegate protested. Our surveillance showed minimal expansion. Basic technology. How did we miss this? A new voice spoke from the entrance to the chamber. Because we wanted you to miss it. Every head turned. A human stood at the doorway, a woman in a simple gray suit. She was not particularly tall or imposing, but something about her presence commanded attention. She walked to the center of the chamber without waiting for permission. Her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. I am Ambassador Sarah Chen, she announced. Earth has decided to accept your invitation to the Galactic Council. We apologize for being late. We were busy. Thank you for watching. End of quote. The chairman recovered first. Ambassador Chen, while your presence is welcome, this session was not scheduled for new members to join. I know, Sarah replied calmly. But you were discussing humanity, and we thought we should be part of that conversation. We have been listening to your counsels for 50 years. Now we are ready to speak. Cathara's scales flushed red. You admit to spying on us? We monitored your public broadcasts, Sarah corrected. Your council sessions are transmitted across the galaxy. We simply received and watched them. Is that spying? We were not aware that was forbidden. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. She was technically correct. The council broadcasts were public. Very well, the chairman said. Since you are here, perhaps you can answer our questions. How did you build such a fleet in secret? Our intelligence assets found no evidence of major construction. 141. No 141. Anyone. 141. Sarah smiled. Your intelligence assets looked where you expected to find things. You scanned our planets. You watched our orbital space. You monitored our communications. But you made assumptions about how we would behave based on how your species behave. She gestured to the display screens around the chamber. May I? At the chairman's nod, the screens lit up with images. The first showed the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. You saw mining operations, Sarah explained, which was correct. We were mining, but we were also building. We constructed our shipyards inside asteroids, hidden from external sensors. We moved the construction materials through the belt, using ships disguised as mining vessels. It took longer than building in open space, but it was undetectable. The next image showed dark space beyond Neptune. You expected us to expand toward the galaxy, the way every other species does, Sarah continued. Instead, we expanded into the outer dark of our own system and beyond. We established construction facilities in interstellar space, in the void between stars. No orbital mechanics to give us away. No planets nearby for reference. Just darkness, and cold, and secrecy. But the energy signatures, the Quellan representative protested. Facilities that size should generate enormous heat and radiation. They do, Sarah agreed. But we developed better stealth technology. We contained our heat signatures. We used your own sensor networks to determine what you could and could not detect, then ensured we stayed below those thresholds. We learned how you look for things, and we avoided being seen. Cathara could not contain herself. This is an outrage. You built a military fleet in secret while pretending to be peaceful. We built a defensive fleet, Sarah corrected, her voice hardening. There is a difference. We never threatened anyone. We never invaded. anyone. We simply prepared to defend ourselves if needed. Which, I note, proved to be a wise decision when you sent your fleet to invade our system. We were offering protection. We did not ask for it. We did not want it. And when we said no, you decided to force it on us anyway. Sarah looked around the chamber. Let me make something very clear to this council. Earth is willing to participate in galactic society. We are willing to trade, share technology, and work together on common problems. But we will not be bullied. We will not be threatened, and we will not allow anyone to dictate terms to us. The chairman looked at her for a long moment. Your actions, while defensive, have disrupted the balance of power in this galaxy. The Vrix Empire has been the primary military force for centuries. Now suddenly there is a new power, one we know nothing about. Can you understand why that makes us nervous? I understand completely, Sarah said. And I sympathize. But consider this. We have had the capability to take aggressive action for years. We could have attacked your shipping. We could have seized systems. We could have done any number of hostile things. We did not. We remained in our space and built our defenses. Does that not demonstrate our peaceful intent? Or your patience, Cathara muttered. Perhaps you were waiting for the right moment. Sarah turned to face her directly. Ambassador Cathara, if we wanted to conquer, we would have started by now. We have 2,000 warships. You know about those because we let you see them. How many more do you think we have that we did not reveal? How many facilities remain hidden? You cannot know. And that uncertainty is why you should work with us, not against us. The chamber fell silent. Sarah had made her point clearly. Humanity had demonstrated overwhelming capability while showing restraint. They could be enemies or allies, and the choice belonged to the galaxy. The Undari delegate spoke up. What does Earth want? Why participate now? After 50 years of isolation, Sarah's expression softened slightly. We want what every species wants. Security, prosperity, the chance to grow and explore without fear. We stayed isolated because we did not trust the galaxy. We watched your councils and saw species being pressured, intimidated, manipulated. We saw the strong dominate the weak. We decided we would never be the weak. She paused, choosing her words carefully. But we also saw cooperation. We saw different species working together to solve problems. We saw the Galactic Hospital Network saving lives across hundreds of worlds. We saw the Combined Research Initiative making discoveries that benefited everyone. We saw that this council, despite its flaws, represents something valuable: unity. And we decided that once we were strong enough to protect ourselves, we would join that unity. You could have told us, the Quellan representative said. You could have explained your concerns. Would you have listened? Sarah asked. Or would you have dismissed us as paranoid primitives? We made the choice to show rather than tell. Now you know what we are capable of. Now you know we are not to be threatened. And now we can talk as equals. The chairman considered this. You said you were willing to share technology. What did you mean? We have developed advances in stealth systems, computer security, and automated defense networks, Sarah explained. We are willing to share those technologies with the Council, with appropriate safeguards. We are also willing to contribute ships to the collective defense network, under certain conditions. What conditions? Human ships remain under human command. We will not place our forces under Vrix authority or anyone else's. We will coordinate with allied forces, but we make our own tactical decisions. And we will never be obligated to participate in aggressive wars. Defense only. Cathara started to object, but the chairman raised a hand to silence her. Those conditions are reasonable. Many species maintain independent command of their forces. I believe we can work with this. Gating. There is one more thing, Sarah said. We know about the harvesters. The chamber went dead silent. Every delegate froze. The harvesters were classified information, known only to the highest levels of government and military command. The fact that humanity knew about them was shocking. How? The chairman asked quietly. We detected them 3 years ago, Sarah replied. Our deep space monitoring network picked up the first disappearances near the galactic rim. We tracked the pattern. We analyzed the few survivor reports that made it back. We know what is coming. Then you understand why we need unity, the chairman said. Why we need every species working together. Yes, Sarah agreed. Which is why we are here. We built our fleet not just to defend against the Council, but to defend against the harvesters. We knew they were coming. We have been preparing for them. Cathara found her voice again. You knew about the greatest threat to galactic civilization and said nothing? Would you have believed us? Sarah asked. 3 years ago, you thought we were primitives. If we had warned you about machine intelligences consuming systems at the galactic rim, would you have taken us seriously? Or would you have laughed and gone back to your summits? No one answered. They all knew the truth. They would not have listened. We said nothing because we had nothing to offer but warnings, Sarah continued. Now, we have something more valuable. We have weapons. We have ships. We have a military force specifically designed to fight an enemy that does not negotiate and does not stop. When the harvesters come, and they will come, humanity will stand with the galaxy. But we will stand as equals, not as subjects. The chairman looked around the chamber, reading the mood of the delegates. Fear warred with pride in many faces. The revelation of humanity's fleet had shaken the comfortable assumptions of galactic politics. But the reminder of the harvester threat put everything in perspective. I propose we accept Earth's terms, the chairman said. They will join the Galactic Council as full members, with all rights and responsibilities. They will contribute to the collective defense network under their stated conditions. And we will begin immediate coordination on harvester defense strategies. I second the proposal, the Andari delegate said quickly. The vote was not unanimous. Cathara and several other Vrix delegates voted against. A few other species abstained. But the majority approved. Earth was officially part of the Galactic Council. After the session, Cathara found Sarah in one of the chamber's side corridors. You humiliated my people, Cathara said, her scales dark with anger. Your war master came to invade my system, Sarah replied evenly. We defended ourselves. If that caused humiliation, perhaps you should reconsider your approach to diplomacy. The Vrix Empire has maintained order in this galaxy for centuries. We have protected hundreds of worlds, and we respect that, Sarah said. But you need to understand something, Ambassador. Earth does not need your protection. We never did. What we need is partnership, mutual respect. If your empire can offer that, we can work together. If not, then we will simply avoid each other. Cathara studied the human woman. She was small, by Vrix standards, physically unimpressive. But there was steel in her eyes. A certainty that came from knowing her civilization could back up any threat. You really knew about the harvesters for 3 years? Cathara asked. Yes. And you built your fleet to fight them? Partially. We built it to fight anyone who threatened us. The harvesters were just the most obvious threat. Cathara's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. War Master Jeln's report said your cyber warfare capabilities were beyond anything he had encountered. If you can disable our ships that easily, what could you do to the harvesters? We do not know, Sarah admitted. The harvesters are machine intelligence. They may be harder to hack than your systems. Or they may be more vulnerable. We will find out when we face them. When they come, will humanity really fight beside us? Even after what we tried to do? Quote, quote, quote. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Ambassador, Earth does not hold grudges. We defend ourselves when attacked, but we do not seek revenge. If the harvesters threaten the galaxy, they threaten Earth too. We will fight. Not for the Council, not for the Vrix Empire, but for survival. Ours, and everyone else's. Cathara nodded slowly. Perhaps I misunderstood humanity. Perhaps we all did. Cathara, Cathara, Cathara. Perhaps, Sarah agreed. But now you know better. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? Learn, Cathara said after a pause. Adapt. It is what my people do best. Then we will get along fine, Sarah said with a slight smile. Far from the political discussions, in the hidden construction facilities scattered across human space, work continued. Engineers and workers, who had spent decades building in secret, now prepared for the next phase. The fleet was ready. The defenses were in place. And now, finally, Earth stood as an equal among the stars. But in the darkest reaches of space, beyond the rim of the galaxy, the harvesters continued their work. System by system, world by world, they consumed and converted, building an army that would make the Vrix fleet look like toys. They did not know about humanity yet. They did not know about the 2,000 ships waiting in the Sol system, but they would learn. Soon enough, they would learn. And on that day, the galaxy would discover whether humanity's 50 years of preparation had been enough. Whether the fleet built in secret could stand against an enemy that consumed entire civilizations. Whether the species that had hidden in the dark could fight in the light. Time would tell. But one thing was certain. Humanity would not face that day unprepared. They had ignored every summit, every invitation, every attempt at contact. They had used that time wisely. Now the galaxy would see the results. 3 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 3 months of careful diplomacy, technology-sharing agreements, and mutual suspicion slowly giving way to cautious cooperation. Earth now maintained a permanent embassy on the Council station, staffed by diplomats who spoke a dozen galactic languages and understood the complex politics that governed thousands of worlds. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in her office overlooking the Great Chamber, watching delegates from across the galaxy move through their daily routines. Some still gave her wary looks. Others had begun to treat her as they would any other ambassador. The Andari delegation had even invited her to dinner last week, an honor that signified acceptance. But Cathara remained distant. The Vrix Empire had not forgotten the humiliation of their fleet. They worked with humanity when necessary, but made no effort to hide their resentment. Sarah understood. Pride was a powerful force in any species. Her communicator chimed. Ambassador, you have a priority message from Earth Central Authority. Put it through. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. She was Sarah's sister, though few people knew that. The Admiral looked tired, her eyes carrying the weight of information that had stolen her sleep. Sarah, we have a situation. You need to bring this to the Council immediately. What kind of situation? The harvesters. They are accelerating. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Show me. The Admiral transmitted data files, and Sarah's screen filled with star maps, trajectory calculations, and reports from the Deep Space Monitoring Network that Earth had quietly maintained beyond the galactic rim. What she saw made her blood run cold. 3 months ago, the harvesters were consuming approximately 1 system per month. Now they were taking 1 per week. The acceleration was exponential. At this rate, they would reach populated space within a year. Not the 5 years that previous projections had indicated. How many ships? Sarah asked. Conservative estimate? 15,000. And growing. They are using the matter from destroyed worlds to build more of themselves. We estimate they are adding 200 vessels per week to their forces. Does the Council know? Not yet. Their intelligence is slower than ours. They will figure it out in another week or 2. But you need to tell them now. They need time to prepare. Sarah nodded. I will call an emergency session. Admiral, what are our chances? Her sister was silent for a long moment. Unknown. We built our fleet to face a threat. Now we get to find out if we built enough. Quote, the emergency session of the Galactic Council began 2 hours later. Sarah had provided enough preliminary data to ensure every major species sent their top military commanders in addition to their ambassadors. The chamber was packed. The chairman called the session to order. Ambassador Chen has requested this emergency meeting. She has information regarding the harvester threat. Ambassador, please proceed. Sarah stepped to the central podium. Behind her, the main display lit up with the data Earth had gathered. 3 months ago, I told this council that we knew about the harvesters, Sarah began. What I did not tell you was the extent of our monitoring network. Earth maintains sensor arrays in deep space, beyond the rim, specifically to track the harvester advance. What we have discovered is deeply concerning. The display showed the accelerating pattern of system losses. Gasps and murmurs ran through the chamber. The harvesters are not moving at a steady pace, Sarah continued. They are accelerating. Each system they consume provides materials for more ships. Each new ship allows them to attack more targets. This is exponential growth. At current rates, they will reach the first populated systems in 12 months. That is impossible, Cathara said, standing. Our projections showed 5 years. Your projections were based on outdated data, Sarah replied. We have better sensors and closer monitoring positions. Our data is current as of yesterday. The harvesters will be here in 1 year. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Delegates shouted questions, demanded verification, and argued among themselves. The chairman had to restore order 3 times before the noise subsided. How many harvester vessels? Asked the Vrik's military commander, a scarred veteran named General Krell, 15,000 as of last week, adding approximately 200 per week. By the time they reach us, we estimate 25 to 30,000. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. The entire galactic defense fleet numbered 8,000 ships. Even with Earth's 2,000, they would be outnumbered 3 to 1. What do we know about their capabilities? The Quellan representative asked, his crystalline body flickering with nervous energy. Sarah brought up new data. Limited information from survivors. The harvesters use directed energy weapons, possibly plasma-based. Their ships are heavily armored and appear to have some kind of regenerative hull plating. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply arrive, destroy everything, and harvest the debris. Have we attempted contact? The Andari delegate asked. Multiple species have tried. No response. The harvesters treat all organic life as resources to be processed. There is no indication they are capable of or interested in communication. General Krell stood. Then we must prepare for total war. Every species must contribute their maximum military capacity. We need to triple the size of the defense fleet. That will take years, someone objected. We have 12 months. Then we work faster, Krell snapped. We convert civilian shipyards. We draft personnel. We do whatever is necessary. There is another option, Sarah said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Earth has additional forces that we did not reveal during our demonstration 3 months ago. Every eye turned to her. Cathara's scales flushed deep red. You said you showed us your capabilities. I said we showed you Earth's home defense system. Sarah corrected. We did. What we did not show you was our deep space fleet. The display changed to show new star maps. Locations marked across the void beyond the galactic rim. In the darkness between spiral arms. In places no other species had thought to look. For 40 years, humanity has been expanding into deep space, Sarah explained. Not toward the galaxy, but into the void. We established hidden facilities in interstellar space. We built ships in the darkness where no one would look. We did this because we knew that our system alone would not be enough. If something came from the void, we needed to meet it in the void. How many ships? The chairman asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 3,000 additional vessels, larger than anything in our home fleet. designed specifically for extended operations far from supply bases. They have been stationed in deep space for the past 2 years, monitoring the harvesters and preparing for this moment. The chamber erupted again. 5,000 human ships. Combined with the galactic fleet, they would have 13,000 vessels. Still outnumbered, but no longer hopelessly so. Cathara was on her feet. "This is outrageous. You lied to us again." "We withheld information," Sarah corrected calmly. "Just as you withhold information about your military capabilities. Just as every species maintains classified military assets. But now, the time for secrets is over. The harvesters are coming. We need every ship, every weapon, every advantage we can find." General Krell studied Sarah with new respect. "These deep space vessels, are they combat ready?" "Yes. Fully crewed, fully armed, and positioned along the harvester approach vector. They can begin defensive operations immediately." "What do you need from us?" the chairman asked. "Coordination," Sarah replied. "Our ships are powerful, but they work best as part of a larger force. We need to combine the human fleet with the galactic defense fleet. We need unified command structures, compatible communication systems, and coordinated strategy." "Human ships under Vrick's command?" Cathara asked skeptically. "No," Sarah said firmly. "Combined command. Human ships under human officers, Vrick's ships under Vrick's officers, but coordinating through a joint command structure. General Krell, I have reviewed your military record. You are an excellent tactical commander. We would be honored to work with you." Krell studied her for a moment, then gave a sharp nod. "The honor would be mutual. Ambassador, if your ships fight as well as they hide, we might actually survive this." Over the next hours, the Council hammered out the details. Ships would be organized into mixed species battle groups. Communication protocols would be standardized. Supply chains would be established. And most importantly, a joint command center would be set up to coordinate the defense. But even as they planned, the reports kept coming in. More systems gone silent. More colonies lost. The harvesters were not slowing down. If anything, they were accelerating even faster than Earth's projections. After the session, Sarah found herself alone with the chairman in one of the station's observation decks. The old Vorthian stared out at the stars, his expression troubled. "We have faced threats before," he said quietly. "Pirates, rogue nations, even the occasional species that tried to conquer their neighbors. But this is different." "Yes," Sarah agreed. "This is an extinction event. If the harvesters win, they will not enslave us or occupy our worlds. They will erase us completely. Your species prepared for this. You knew it was coming. We prepared for the possibility. Our history taught us that the universe is not safe, that terrible things can emerge from the darkness. We decided never to be unprepared again." The chairman turned to look at her. "There is something I do not understand. You built all these ships, all these defenses, over decades. You spent enormous resources, and you did it based on nothing more than historical fear? You had no evidence that something like the harvesters existed." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "That is not entirely true. When the Endari made first contact with Earth, they shared their knowledge of the galaxy. They told us about all the wonderful species and civilizations. But they also shared their history. And in that history, there were gaps. Species that existed, and then suddenly disappeared. Entire sectors that went silent. The galactic community attributed these to natural disasters or internal collapse. But you did not believe that. We considered other possibilities. We looked at the patterns, and we saw something that scared us. The disappearances happened in waves, separated by centuries, as if something would emerge, consume what it found, and then retreat back into the darkness to sleep or rebuild. We realized that another wave might be coming. We decided to be ready. You were right. I wish we had been wrong, Sarah said softly. I wish the galaxy was as safe as everyone believed. But it is not. The harvesters are real. And now, we must face them. The chairman nodded slowly. I am glad your species joined us, Ambassador Chen. Even if it took 50 years. We joined at exactly the right time, Sarah replied. If we had joined earlier, you would have pressured us to integrate our military, to place our ships under galactic command, to share our technologies before we were ready. We needed to be strong first. Strong enough to stand as equals. Strong enough to say no when necessary, and yes when it mattered. And now it matters. Yes. Now it matters more than anything. Far from the council station, in the cold darkness beyond the galactic rim, a human vessel hung in the void. The UESS Times Vigilant Times was a deep space monitor, one of dozens positioned along the Harvester approach vector. Her crew of 300 had been stationed here for 18 months, watching and waiting. On the bridge, Captain Marcus Rodriguez stared at his sensor displays. Something was changing. The Harvester swarm was shifting course slightly, angling toward a different target than predicted. Analysis? He asked his sensor officer. They are avoiding the defensive positions we established. They detected our sensor buoys and are routing around them. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The harvesters were adapting. Learning. This was worse than anyone had thought. Send a priority transmission to Fleet Command, he ordered. Full encryption. The harvesters are demonstrating tactical awareness. They are not mindless machines. They are learning from contact with our systems. As the transmission was sent, Marcus looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond his sensors, 30,000 harvester ships were coming. And now they knew humanity was waiting for them. The war had not started yet. But it was coming. And when it arrived, it would determine whether organic life had a future in this galaxy, or whether the machines would consume everything. Earth had prepared for 50 years. The galaxy had been united in desperation. Combined, they had 13,000 ships. It would have to be enough. Because there was no second chance, no backup plan. This was it. The harvesters were coming. And the galaxy would either stand or fall together. The Kelvin system had been chosen for strategic reasons. It sat at the edge of populated space, directly in the path of the harvester advance. It had 3 gas giants for fuel, multiple asteroid fields for resources, and enough space for the largest military fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Captain Jennifer Torres stood on the bridge of the UESS Times, indomitable asterisk, humanity's flagship, and the largest warship ever built by human hands. 3 kilometers from bow to stern, carrying enough firepower to crack a planet's crust, and crewed by 5,000 of Earth's finest, the Times. Indomitable Times represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. Around her, displayed on dozens of screens, the combined fleet took formation. 8,000 galactic defense fleet vessels stretched across millions of kilometers. Vrix battleships with their distinctive red hulls. Quellan crystal ships that looked like sculptures but carried devastating energy weapons. Endari carriers launching fighter craft. Dozens of other species, each bringing their unique technologies and tactics. And humanity. 5,000 human vessels, every one of them built in secret, over 5 decades. They moved with machine precision, their formation perfect, their communications encrypted at levels the rest of the galaxy had never achieved. Status report, Captain Torres requested. Her tactical officer, Commander Parks, responded immediately. All human vessels report ready. Fleet cohesion at 98%. Weapon systems charged. Defensive systems online. We are ready for combat. Galactic fleet status, more mixed. Some species are having coordination issues. The Vrix want to take point position, but General Krell has convinced them to maintain the planned formation. Overall readiness approximately 75%. Torres nodded. It was not perfect, but it would have to do. The harvesters were not going to wait for everyone to be completely ready. On the main display, a countdown timer showed 12 hours until the harvester fleet entered sensor range. 12 hours until the largest battle in galactic history. 12 hours until they discovered whether organic life could stand against mechanical perfection. Open a channel to Fleet Command, Torres ordered. General Krell's face appeared on the screen, split with Admiral Chen from the human fleet. The arrangement had been worked out over weeks of intense negotiation. Krell would command the galactic fleet, Chen the human forces, and they would coordinate strategy together. General, Admiral. The Times. Indomitable Times reports ready for combat, Torres said formally. Acknowledged, Captain, Krell replied. His scales were the deep purple that indicated battle readiness in his species. All galactic fleet vessels are to maintain formation. We will meet the harvesters as a unified wall. Let them break themselves against us. Human fleet will maintain flexible formation. Admiral Chen added, we will exploit openings and respond to threats as they develop. General, we are transmitting tactical data now. Our ships have better sensors than most of the fleet. We will share targeting information in real time. Appreciated, Admiral. Any intelligence updates on harvester capabilities? Nothing new since the briefing, Chen replied. They have energy weapons, heavy armor, and they work in coordinated swarms. They also adapt quickly. Whatever tactics we use in the first engagement will be less effective in the second. Then we will make the first engagement count, Krell said grimly. The hours crawled by. Throughout the fleet, crews prepared in their own ways. Some prayed to their gods. Others checked their equipment repeatedly. The human crews ran simulations, studied enemy data, and maintained the calm professionalism that Earth's military training instilled. Captain Torres walked through the Times' indomitable asterisk, speaking with her crew. In the weapons bays, engineers made final adjustments to the massive railguns that could fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. In the fighter bays, pilots prepared their craft, smaller vessels designed for precision strikes. In medical, doctors prepared for casualties that everyone hoped would not come. Captain, her communications officer called out. Sensor contact. The harvesters have entered detection range. Torres returned to the bridge at a run. Display. The main screen shifted to show long-range sensor data. What appeared was worse than anyone had imagined. Not 25,000 harvester vessels. Not 30,000. The sensor computers counted contacts and kept counting. 35,000 vessels. The sensor officer reported, his voice shaking slightly. Still tracking more. They have accelerated their production beyond our projections. Torres felt her stomach sink but kept her expression calm. Update Fleet Command. All ships to battle stations. Throughout the combined fleet, alarms sounded. The relaxed tension of waiting vanished, replaced by the sharp focus of imminent combat. Weapon systems went from standby to active. Shields energized. Fighters launched into defensive patterns. The harvester fleet moved like a school of fish. Thousands of vessels maintaining perfect coordination. Their ships were ugly, functional things. Angular hulls covered in weapons. No aerodynamics because they never entered atmospheres. No aesthetics because they had no concept of beauty. They were machines built for one purpose. Destruction. They are not slowing, Commander Parks reported. Maintaining velocity. Estimated time to weapons range, 45 minutes. General Krell is transmitting, communications said. Krell's face appeared on the screen, addressing the entire fleet. This is General Krell to all vessels. What we face today is not an army. It is not a nation. It is a force of extinction. The harvesters do not hate us. They do not fear us. We are simply resources to them. But we are not resources. We are living beings. We are civilizations that have built wonders across the galaxy. And we will not go quietly into the dark. He paused, letting his words sink in. Every species here has different beliefs, different customs, different histories. But today, we share one identity: survivors. We will fight together. We will stand together. And if we fall, we will fall together, knowing we gave everything to protect life itself. All ships, prepare for engagement. Show these machines what it means to face the living. The transmission ended. Torres looked around her bridge. Her crew looked back at her. Fear and determination mixed in their expressions. "You heard the general," Torres said. "Battle stations. And remember your training. We have prepared for this. We are ready. Let's show the galaxy what human engineering can do." The 45 minutes passed in a blur of final preparations. And then the harvesters entered weapons range. They opened fire first. 35,000 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Energy beams crossed the void at light speed. The combined fleet's shields flared brilliant colors as they absorbed the impacts. Shields holding at 70%. Tactical reported. Damage to sections 12 through 18. Hull breaches on the Times, Vigilant Times, and Times Defiance **. Return fire, Torres ordered. Target their lead elements. Fire at will. The Times Indomitable's Times main weapons spoke. 8 railguns launched projectiles that crossed the distance in seconds. Moving so fast, they were invisible to the naked eye. They struck harvester vessels with devastating force. Hulls buckled, ships shattered. But for every harvester destroyed, 10 more took its place. Around the Times Indomitable **, the battle became chaos. The galactic fleet fought in traditional lines, ships supporting each other, creating overlapping fields of fire. It was effective, but slow. The harvesters swarmed around the formation, looking for weaknesses. Then the human fleet showed what made them different. All human vessels. This is Admiral Chen. Execute pattern Delta 7. Go. The human ships broke formation. To observers from other species, it looked like panic. Like the humans were fleeing. But it was anything but. 5,000 ships split into dozens of groups. Some groups jumped using short-range FTL drives, appearing behind the harvester lines. Others accelerated to impossible speeds, using drives that pushed their crews to the limits of human endurance. Still others launched swarms of automated drones, small craft controlled by AI that could react faster than any organic pilot. The harvesters suddenly found themselves fighting on all sides. Human ships appeared in unexpected locations, fired devastating strikes, and jumped away before the harvesters could respond. It was not traditional fleet combat. It was guerrilla warfare on a cosmic scale. Captain Torres watched her tactical display, tracking the chaos. Target that cluster at bearing 270. Fire, kinetic, barrage. The Times. Indomitable Times launched 100 small projectiles, each one guided by its own AI. They spread out, each seeking its own target. 97 found harvester ships and struck with nuclear-level force. 3 were intercepted by harvester point defense. Good hit. Selecting next target. Enemy formation at Mark 335. They are massing for a push against the Vryk's line. Launch fighters. Tell them to hit those ships from above while we engage from below. 200 human fighters screamed from the Times Indomitable's Times bays. They were small, fast, and carried weapons that could punch through heavy armor. They dove into the harvester formation like sharks into a school of fish. On the other side of the battle, a Vryk's commander watched the human tactics with amazement. The humans fought with no regard for traditional formation. They jumped, dodged, struck from unexpected angles. It was beautiful in its chaos, but it was also costly. Human ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything else in the fleet, but they were not invulnerable. The harvesters adapted quickly. They began predicting jump coordinates, placing ships where humans would appear. They concentrated fire on isolated human vessels, overwhelming their shields through sheer volume. The UESS Times Defiance Times took catastrophic damage when 3 harvester vessels caught it during a jump. The ship broke apart, life pods ejecting as the reactor core breached. The UESS Times Relentless Times fought alone against 50 harvester ships, its captain refusing to retreat. The ship died with all hands, but it took 30 harvester vessels with it. One by one, human ships fell. But they fell fighting, and they took the enemy with them. On the Times Indomitable's Times Bridge, Torres tracked the casualties. 50 human ships destroyed, 80 damaged. But the harvesters had lost over 3,000 vessels. The exchange ratio was favorable, but numbers were not on the combined fleet's side. Admiral Chen is transmitting, communications reported. Admiral Chen's face appeared, and Torres could see the strain in her sister's eyes. They had lost friends today. Colleagues, people they had trained with, and fought beside. All human vessels, this is Chen. The harvesters are adapting to our tactics. They are learning our jump patterns. We need to change strategy. Execute pattern, Omega. I repeat, pattern, Omega. Torres felt her blood run cold. Pattern Omega was the desperate option. The one they used when nothing else worked. Tactical, prepare for Omega execution. Weapons, charge all forward batteries. Engineering, prepare for emergency power transfer. Pattern Omega was simple in concept but brutal in execution. The human fleet would form a spearhead and drive straight into the heart of the harvester swarm. No dodging, no jumping, just raw power and speed, punching through the enemy line and destroying everything in the path. It would work, but the casualties would be enormous. All human vessels forming up. Tactical reported. Fleet cohesion at 80% and rising. 5,000 human ships pulled together, forming a wedge with the largest vessels at the point. The Times, Indomitable Times, took the lead position, her massive bulk serving as the tip of the spear. All ships, this is Chen. We are going to show these machines what happens when you threaten organic life. Full power to engines. Maximum firepower. No holding back. Drive through them. For Earth. For the galaxy. For every living being that ever existed. The human spearhead accelerated. 5,000 ships moving as one, building to speeds that made even their own crews uncomfortable. And then, they hit the harvester line. The Times. Indomitable Times fired every weapon simultaneously. Railguns, particle beams, missiles, drones, everything. The ship's entire front section glowed white-hot from the energy discharge. Harvester ships died by the dozens, simply erased from existence by the overwhelming firepower. Behind the Times, Indomitable Asterisk, 4,999 other human ships did the same. They poured fire into the harvester formation, burning a hole through their lines, and the harvesters fought back. They concentrated all their firepower on the human spear, trying to blunt it before it could break through. Ships died. The UESS Times, Courageous Times, took a hit that vaporized her entire forward section. The UESS Times Dauntless Times lost power and drifted into the harvester formation. Her crew fighting hand-to-hand with boarding machines until the ship's reactor was overloaded in a final act of defiance. But the spear kept driving forward. Through the harvester formation. Through their coordination networks. Through their command ships. And then they were through. 5,000 human ships had entered the harvester formation. 3,200 emerged on the other side. Nearly 2,000 human vessels destroyed in a single massive charge. But they had accomplished their goal. The harvester formation was broken, their coordination disrupted, and in that moment of chaos, the galactic fleet struck. 8,000 ships surged forward, hitting the confused harvesters with everything they had. Now, it was the machine's turn to die in massive numbers. The battle raged for another 6 hours. By the end, the space around Kelvin's system was filled with debris. Harvester wrecks drifted among the remains of ships from a dozen species. The beautiful formations of the fleet's beginning had dissolved into scattered groups fighting smaller engagements. But finally, impossibly, the harvesters retreated. Not destroyed, but damaged enough that their calculations showed continued engagement would result in their elimination. They jumped away, back toward the rim, scattering across dozens of different vectors. On the Times Indomitable's Times Bridge, Captain Torres slumped in her command chair. Around her, her crew did the same. They had won. At terrible cost, they had won. Casualty report, Torres said quietly. Commander Parks pulled up the data, and his voice shook as he read it. Combined fleet losses. 2,000 vessels. Human fleet. 1,800 lost. Another 600 damaged. Galactic fleet. 200 destroyed. 400 damaged. Torres closed her eyes. Nearly 40% of the human fleet was gone. Tens of thousands dead. But they had destroyed over 8,000 harvester vessels. The machines had retreated for the first time in recorded history. Open fleet-wide channel, Torres ordered. Her face appeared on screens throughout the surviving ships. She saw exhausted crews, damaged bridges, and in some cases, emergency lighting, because main power was offline. This is Captain Torres of the Times, Indomitable Asterisk. We have won today. We have shown the harvesters that organic life will not go quietly. We have proven that courage and determination can stand against mechanical efficiency. But we have also paid a terrible price. We have lost friends, colleagues, and comrades. We will honor them. We will remember them. And we will ensure their sacrifice was not in vain. She paused. The harvesters will return. They will adapt. They will come back stronger. But so will we. Today, we learned to fight together. Today we proved that unity is our strength. And when they come back, we will be ready. Rest now. Repair your ships. Mourn your dead. But know that we will stand together again. Because that is what the living do. We survive. We endure. We fight. The transmission ended. Torres looked at her crew. Good work, everyone. Begin recovery operations. Let's bring our people home. As the combined fleet began the long process of recovering survivors, collecting the dead, and repairing damaged vessels, one thing was clear. The war had truly begun. This was just the first battle. The harvesters would return, adapted and reinforced. But humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. And the galaxy had seen that the quiet species that hid for 50 years had been preparing not for conquest, but for this moment. The moment when everything was on the line. When survival itself was in question. When only the strongest and most determined would prevail. Humanity had answered that call. And they would answer it again. When the time came. 2 years. 24 months. 730 days. That was how long the war against the harvesters had lasted when Admiral Rachel Chen stood in the command center on Council Station, staring at tactical displays that showed a galaxy under siege. Red markers indicated harvester presence. Blue showed Allied forces. And too many sectors showed no color at all, because there was nothing left to defend. The first battle at Kelvin had been decisive. The second battle, 4 months later, had been harder. The harvesters had adapted, learned from their defeat, and returned with new tactics. The third battle had been a near disaster, saved only by a desperate Endari sacrifice play that allowed the fleet to retreat. After that, there were no more major battles. The war had become something worse. A grinding campaign of attrition. The harvesters attacked dozens of systems simultaneously, forcing the combined fleet to split into smaller groups. Supply lines were stretched, resources depleted, and the casualties never stopped mounting. Admiral Chen looked exhausted. Her hair had gone completely gray. Her uniform, once pristine, showed the wrinkles and stains of someone who slept in their office more often than not. Around her, Officers from a dozen species worked at consoles, coordinating operations across thousands of light years. General Krell entered the command center, his scales showing the mottled pattern that indicated chronic stress in his species. He looked no better than Chen. 2 years of war had aged him a decade. "Admiral," he greeted, "I received your message. You said it was urgent." "It is." Chen pulled up a new display. "Our intelligence network has finally determined the Harvester's central coordination hub. It is here, in the Void Reach sector, approximately 300 light-years beyond the rim." Krell studied the data. "That is deep in Harvester territory. How did we get this information?" Quote, "The Times, Silent Runner Times made a reconnaissance run. A stealth ship, human design. They survived long enough to map the network and transmit before they were destroyed. All hands lost." Krell bowed his head briefly in respect. "A brave crew. What did they find?" "The Harvesters coordinate through a central network node. It is not a ship. It is a structure. Something they built specifically to manage their fleet. If we destroy it, we disrupt their coordination. They will not be defeated, but they will lose their tactical advantage. They will become individual ships instead of a coordinated swarm. And we can pick them off," Krell finished. He studied the data more carefully. "But the defenses around this node will be enormous. We would need to commit everything to the attack. If we fail, the fleet will be too damaged to defend populated space." "I know," Chen said quietly. "It is a gamble. But General, look at the strategic situation. We have lost 30% of our forces. The Harvesters have lost similar numbers, but they can replace their losses faster than we can. In 6 months, maybe a year, we will not have enough ships left to mount an effective defense. We need a decisive action now, while we still have the strength." Krell was silent for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "You are right. We cannot win through attrition. We need a killing blow." He paused. "But the Council will never approve this. Too many species are already calling for individual peace agreements, impossible as they are with machines. If we take the fleet on a deep strike mission, some nations will withdraw their forces. Then we do not ask permission," Chen said. "We tell them it is happening. Present it as a done decision. That could fracture the alliance. The alliance is already fracturing. We need a victory, something to show every species that we can win this war. Otherwise, we will lose through 1,000 small defeats." Krell looked at her with a respect born of shared hardship. 2 years ago, he had resented humanity's presence. Now, he could not imagine fighting this war without them. The humans were stubborn, aggressive, and absolutely refused to accept defeat. Those qualities had kept the fleet together through disasters that would have shattered most alliances. "Very well," Krell said. "We commit everything to one final strike, but we will need something to overcome the defenses. The Harvesters will have thousands of ships protecting their coordination hub. I know. Which is why I have people working on a solution. I need you to buy them time. 3 weeks. Can you hold the current defensive lines for 3 weeks?" 3 weeks? Krell considered. "Yes. Barely. But what solution could your people develop in 3 weeks that will make a difference?" "Something radical," Chen replied. "And dangerous. If it works, it will give us the edge we need. If it fails..." She shrugged. "We were going to lose anyway. Might as well try everything." Far from Council Station, on a hidden research facility built inside a rogue planet drifting in interstellar space, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo worked with a team that had not slept properly in weeks. Sarah had been a ship construction commander. Now, she was leading humanity's most desperate research project. "Run the simulation again," she ordered. On the displays, mathematical models played out. Energy curves, probability calculations, and predictions that all seemed to indicate the impossible might actually work. Sarah's partner on this project was mathematician Seventh Chord. a Quellan whose crystalline body contained a computer-like brain capable of processing equations that would take human computers days to solve. Together, they had developed something that defied conventional physics. The simulation succeeds, seventh chord chimed. The network coordination can be disrupted, but the weapon must be delivered directly to the hub. No remote deployment is possible. I know, Sarah said. It is a suicide mission. Many missions in this war have been suicide missions. Why should this one matter more? Because I am asking someone to fly directly into the heart of the enemy fleet, knowing they will not come back. Every other suicide mission, at least, had a chance of survival. This one does not. Then we must find someone who considers survival less important than victory. Sarah thought about that. She thought about the captains she knew, the crews she had worked with over 5 decades of military service. And she knew exactly who would volunteer. 3 weeks later, the combined fleet assembled for the last time. 11,000 ships. Everything that remained combat-capable from both human and galactic forces. It was fewer than half the number that had fought at Kelvin 2 years ago, but it was everything they had. Captain Jennifer Torres stood on the bridge of the Times, indomitable asterisk. Her ship had been repaired and upgraded a dozen times over the past 2 years. She had scars across her hull, where armor had been blown away and replaced. But the ship was still flying, still fighting, and her crew was the most experienced in the fleet. Captain, her communications officer said, Admiral Chen is transmitting. Chen's face appeared on the screen. She looked directly at Torres. Jennifer, I have a special assignment for you. Torres felt her stomach sink. Special assignments were never good news. What do you need, Admiral? The Times, Indomitable Times, has been selected to carry the weapon that will end this war. Dr. Okonkwo will brief you on the details, but I wanted to tell you personally. This is a volunteer mission. You and your crew. If you accept, you will fly into the Harvester Coordination Hub and deploy a device that will disrupt their network. You will not be able to escape before the device activates. The bridge went silent. Every officer had heard the transmission. Every one of them understood what it meant. Torres looked around at her crew. Her tactical officer, Commander Parks, who had been with her since the Times' Indomitable Times, was commissioned. Her engineer, Lieutenant Ramos, who could keep the ship running with spare parts and sheer determination. Her communications officer, who had talked them out of 3 ambushes by intercepting enemy signals. Admiral, Torres said carefully, my crew and I have fought this war from the beginning. We have seen friends die. We have seen whole species brought to the edge of extinction. If there is a way to end it, we will take it. All of us. Captain, you should discuss this with your crew first. No need, Admiral, Commander Parks said, stepping forward. We are already decided. The Times, Indomitable Times, will make the run. One by one, every officer on the bridge nodded agreement. Chen watched them, and Torres saw tears in the Admiral's eyes. You are the finest crew I have ever known, Chen said quietly. Humanity is honored to have you. The galaxy is honored to have you. Dr. Okonkwo will transfer the weapon and briefing data. You have 72 hours to prepare. Make peace with whatever you need to make peace with. Say your goodbyes, and then we will win this war. Makar. The transmission ended. Torres looked at her crew. You heard the Admiral. We have 3 days. Use them well. Dismissed. The crew dispersed, each person dealing with the news in their own way. Some wrote letters to families. Others simply continued their duties, finding comfort in routine. A few gathered in the ship's chapel, praying to whatever gods they believed in. Torres herself went to her quarters and recorded a message for her family on Earth. She told them she loved them. She told them she was proud to serve. She told them the war would soon be over. One way or another, the 3 days passed too quickly. The weapon was loaded into the Times. Indomitable's Times hold. A complex device that Dr. Okonkwo explained would create a resonance cascade in the Harvester network, effectively burning out their coordination systems. It was elegant, brilliant, and required proximity to work. Very close proximity. The combined fleet jumped into the Void Reach sector in a single, massive wave. 11,000 ships appearing simultaneously. Weapons hot, ready for the final engagement. The Harvesters were waiting. 20,000 ships surrounded the coordination hub, a massive structure that looked like a geometric nightmare. All angles and surfaces that hurt to look at too long. All ships, this is General Krell. Execute battle plan. Create a corridor for the times. Indomitable asterisk. Everything we have. Hold nothing back. The combined fleet surged forward. They had learned much in 2 years of war. They fought with coordinated precision. Human ships and galactic vessels working together as they never had before. Vrix battleships provided heavy fire support. Quellan ships targeted enemy power systems. Endari fighters swarmed around larger vessels, providing cover, and slowly, painfully, they began to push through. The Times, indomitable Times, followed in the wake of the fleet, her massive bulk protected by dozens of smaller vessels. Torres watched the tactical display, seeing ships die to buy her a few more seconds of survival. A Vrix destroyer took a hit meant for the Times' indomitable asterisk. An Aindari carrier positioned itself between the flagship and an enemy formation, buying time with its own destruction. They are dying for us, Commander Parks said quietly. They are dying for the mission, Torres corrected. For everyone. Human, Vrix, Quellan, everyone. This is not about us anymore. It is about life itself. The Times. Indomitable Times pushed deeper into the Harvester formation. Her shields flared constantly, absorbing hits that would have vaporized smaller vessels. Her weapons fired continuously, clearing the path ahead. And then, they were through. The coordination hub loomed ahead, massive and terrible. The Times. Indomitable Times accelerated toward it, her engines pushing beyond their design limits. Hull temperature critical. Engineering reported. We have fires in sections 7, 12, and 19. Life support is failing in the aft sections. Keep us flying, Torres ordered. We just need a few more minutes. The Harvesters realized the threat. They concentrated all their firepower on the Times' indomitable asterisk, thousands of weapons firing simultaneously. The ship's shields collapsed. Armor plated away in sheets. Hull breaches opened to vacuum. Forward section compromised. Damage control reported. We have lost the primary reactor. Switching to auxiliary power. Main weapons offline. Point defense offline. We are defenseless, Captain. Torres gripped her command chair. Around her, the bridge sparked and smoked. Half the displays were dark, but the ship was still flying, still moving forward through sheer momentum. How long until deployment range? She asked. 40 seconds. 40 seconds. An eternity, when every second saw more of her ship blown away. Torres looked around the bridge one last time. Her crew still worked, still fought, even as the ship died around them. It has been an honor, she said simply. The honor was ours, Captain. Commander Parks replied. The Times. Indomitable Times closed the final distance. What was left of the engineering crew activated the weapon, and Dr. Okonkwo's brilliant and terrible creation came to life. The device emitted a pulse that human sensors could not properly measure. It was not electromagnetic radiation. It was not gravitational. It was something else, something that existed in the mathematical spaces between normal reality and the quantum foam. The pulse hit the coordination hub and penetrated its defenses. It raced through the Harvester network at speeds faster than light, jumping from ship to ship, node to node, spreading like a virus through their entire coordination system. And everywhere it touched, the network burned. The Harvesters, which had moved with perfect synchronization, suddenly became individual units. Their tactics fell apart. Their response times slowed. They were no longer a unified swarm but 20,000 confused ships. The times, indomitable times, exploded. In the same moment, the pulse fired. Captain Torres and her crew of 5,000 died instantly, their sacrifice complete. But across the battlefield, the combined fleet rallied. They saw the Harvester's coordination collapse. They saw the opening they had fought and died to create. And they struck with everything they had. The battle raged for 18 more hours. But the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Harvesters, robbed of their greatest advantage, fell back into defensive positions. The combined fleet destroyed the coordination hub and thousands of Harvester vessels. And then, finally, the machines retreated. Not to regroup, not to rebuild, but to flee. They jumped away in scattered groups, each one heading in a different direction, back toward the dark spaces between galaxies. In the command center on Council Station, Admiral Chen watched the tactical displays update. Green markers, showing Allied victories across the sector. Red markers vanishing as Harvester ships fled or were destroyed. "Admiral," an officer reported, "all Harvester forces are withdrawing from populated space. We are reading jump signatures across multiple vectors. They are leaving. They're reading." Chen nodded slowly. Around her, the command center erupted in cheers. Officers from a dozen species celebrated, hugging each other, crying with relief and joy. The war was over. They had won. But Chen did not celebrate. She thought about the times, indomitable asterisk, about Captain Torres and her crew, about the 11,000 ships that had started the final battle and the 8,000 that had survived it, about every person who had died in this war. They had won, but the cost had been almost unbearable. General Krell approached her, his scales showing the gold color that indicated triumph in his species, but his eyes were sad. "We did it, Admiral. Against all odds, we survived." "Yes," Chen agreed quietly. "We survived. The question is, what do we do now?" 5 years later, the galaxy had changed. The war scars were still visible in destroyed systems and memorial sites. But life continued. Species that had nearly been enemies learned to live and work together. The bonds forged in combat proved stronger than old rivalries. The Galactic Council met in its great chamber, and every seat was filled, including the human seats, now plural. Earth had been given 3 permanent council positions in recognition of their sacrifice and contribution. Humanity no longer stood alone. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now retired from her admiral position, represented Earth. Beside her sat representatives from the Mars colonies and the deep space settlements. Humanity had finally stopped hiding. Their facilities were now public knowledge, their technology shared with allies, their presence welcomed rather than feared. Cathara, still serving as Vrick's ambassador despite everything, approached Sarah during a break in the session. "Ambassador Chen, I wanted to speak with you." "Of course, Ambassador Cathara." Cathara's scales were a soft blue, indicating respect. 5 years ago, I called your people cowards. I demanded that you be brought into civilization by force. I was wrong, and I have been too proud to say so until now. Humanity saved this galaxy, not just with your ships and weapons, but with your determination. You never gave up, even when the rest of us were ready to surrender. Sarah smiled. "We learned from our history, Ambassador. Humanity has faced extinction before, on our own world. We learned that survival requires preparation, determination, and sometimes terrible sacrifices. We hoped we would never need those lessons, but when the time came, we were ready. The galaxy is grateful. I am grateful." Cathara paused. "There is something I have wondered. You said, Earth ignored our summits to prepare for war, but you also said you hoped for peace. How do you reconcile those two things?" It is not a contradiction, Sarah replied. You can hope for peace while preparing for war. In fact, you must. The species that only prepares for war becomes warlike. The species that only hopes for peace becomes vulnerable. You need both. You prepare for the worst while working for the best. And now? What does humanity prepare for now? Sarah looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's dome. We rebuild. We research. We continue to prepare, because the universe is vast, and we have seen that terrible things can emerge from the darkness. But we also work for peace. We share our technology. We help rebuild worlds damaged by the war. We do both, because that is what survivors do. Far from the political discussions, at a memorial site in the Kelvin system, a monument stood among the debris fields of the first battle. It was simple. A list of every ship lost in the war, human and galactic alike. At the top, in letters that caught the light of the local sun, was a single name. Asterisk. Indomitable. Asterisk. Young people from dozens of species came to the memorial, learning about the war, about the sacrifices made, about the price of survival. They learned that peace was not free, that sometimes terrible choices had to be made, and that the greatest strength was not in weapons or ships, but in the courage to use them when necessary, and the wisdom to seek peace when possible. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Jennifer Chen, named after her aunt, who had died on the Time's indomitable asterisk, watched new ships being constructed. The fleet had been rebuilt, larger and more powerful than before. But she hoped, as everyone hoped, that they would never need to use it. The harvesters had not been destroyed. They had fled to the dark spaces beyond the galaxy. They might return someday, adapted and ready for another attempt. Or they might never come back. No one knew. But humanity had learned the most important lesson. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Work for the best, but ready for the worst. Stand together, because unity is strength. Earth had ignored every galactic summit for 50 years. Then, when the galaxy needed them most, they had appeared with 2,000 vessels and saved civilization itself. It was a story that would be told for thousands of years, a reminder that the quiet ones, the ones who prepare in silence, often speak loudest when it matters. The stars shone down on a galaxy at peace, a peace earned through sacrifice, maintained through vigilance, and protected by the understanding that sometimes the price of survival is everything you have, but it was a price worth paying. Because in the end, survival was not just about living. It was about ensuring that life, in all its beautiful diversity, continued, that organic beings could grow, explore, dream, and build wonders across the cosmos. Humanity had ensured that, and the galaxy would never forget. Admiral Jennifer Chen turned from the window and walked back to her duties. There were ships to build, crews to train, and preparations to make, just in case, just to be ready. Because that was what humanity did. They prepared. They stood ready. They hoped for peace. But they never, ever forgot that hope alone was not enough. And in that understanding, in that balance between preparation and hope, between strength and restraint, humanity had finally found their place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as survivors, as protectors, as equals. The empty chair had become a warning. The 2,000 vessels had become a promise. And both together had become humanity's legacy. They had been ready when it mattered, and they always would be.